go, episode 2. Greetings from the music room, the subterranean lair, the tasting room, and yes, the doghouse. Wait for it, wait for it. Yes, the Tibetan singing bowl. And with that, we're off. You know, I'm officially retired now because I know I am because I get to enjoy coffee in a ceramic mug instead of in a stainless steel mug with a non-spill lid that always spilled for that journey to work. You know, when I think about the daily journey to work, I think about the song Birth, School, Work, Death from the group The Godfathers, 1988. Yes, we're going back to ancient history again. Where were you in 1988? What were you doing? I know, I was in the Navy, forward deployed with the Marines in a MASH-like medical and dental encampment just south of the DMZ between North and South Korea, where the coffee was often referred to as Humvee fuel. Also, do you remember the song from Alabama from 1992? I'm in a hurry to get things done. Oh, I rush and I rush until life's no fun. All I really got to do is live and die, but I'm in a hurry and I don't know why. I remember seeing Alabama. In 1982, my cousin said, hey, let's go to Ohio to see them. Took me for a road trip to the outdoor concert where they played with Juice Newton. Oh my God. And there was a milk jug being passed around with unknown substances in it, passed around throughout the crowd, and the milk jug came into my hands, and I remember then there were some people hang gliding into the concert. Or maybe they weren't. I don't know. Who knows? After the milk jug, maybe I just thought there were. Anyways, welcome to episode 2, Catching the Wave, or How I Stopped Worrying and Learned to Love the Pineal Gland. So I woke up today. Yay! Since I'm a senior now, you know, that's not always a given. My friend came over last night and to sing some songs, play some music, sip some whiskeys, and an occasional Reposada Tequila. It was a special occasion for him because he was just finishing his dry January. I've been seeing more and more of that lately, have you? It makes sense, you know, with the new year and resolutions and all that. Did you participate in it? Did you know anybody who did? I remember people telling me they were, and I was like, huh? I was wondering, how long has this been around? What's the motivation behind doing it? Most people I've talked with have done it because they wanted to know that they could do it. Maybe in the back of their minds it was not a given. Thinking, I've got to do something after all that partying over the holidays. Or, you know, I've been having 2 glasses of wine every night and I don't know. Or, I always have a sipper before bedtime. How many people made it all the way through? How many people abandoned it after 2 or 3 days? How many people went out and just boozed it up as soon as the month was over? How many went back to the way things were? How many ladies' night out were there? Well, anyways, I found it interesting. What I found most interesting was most people stated they had lost weight and they slept better than they ever have. They had more energy the next day. It's interesting when you look at it, alcohol interferes with the sleep cycles, the natural rhythms to the day. And there is a natural rhythm to each day. Those are those circadian rhythms. Seems to me now the most precious commodity for us is time or lack of it, trying to fit more things into a faster-paced life. The classic fear of missing out. I don't want to go to bed yet because I've got to do, or I have to see that movie, and you know, today's today, I'll worry about it tomorrow. Or, you know I could have been studying all along for this exam, but I'm just going to cram tonight and through the morning. I'll go get Dunkin' Donuts coffee and hang out till 4 in the morning, and I'll get an hour or 2 of sleep and go take it. Everything will be fine. Speaking of sleep, my dog seems to be doing a lot more of that nowadays. My little 14-year-old Sammy. I took him to the vet the other day, and, you know, the vet looked at me and she said, well, I guess he's a senior too. And she said, T-O-O, too. So I guess that officially makes me a senior now. How the heck did that happen? Anyways, I'm recently retired and I'm learning to find a new rhythm to each day, doing something new to fit into the rhythm of the days, like this content. Why did I want to do this? It's not for the clicks. It's fun. It's just kind of fun. I used to be a radio station DJ and program director years ago, and this kind of reminds me of it. It's fun putting content out there. But when you think about the eventual likes and dislikes, why the heck would anybody do that? It's kind of fun. It's kind of scary, too. It was really scary pressing upload on that first video with all the self-doubt involved. Another scary moment was signing up for a yoga class recently for guys. That's how it was advertised. It was called, are you ready? Tight Guys. It was supposed to be a 3-class intro to yoga for guys. I showed up there, and there were only 3 guys in the room, but there were 12 women who were all yoga teachers. Now that was a little scary for me, especially when the teacher said, all you guys come up to the front. The first class was on a Sunday afternoon, and one guy had a phone next to his mat, and he had the football game going on his phone. Let's just say that didn't go over well with a room full of yoga teachers. I was thinking, should I ask him what the score is? But no, I didn't. Anyways, signing up for a mindfulness self-compassion course, which I did, and breaking up into small groups, discussing topics with people who 3 months before were just strangers, topics that I might not even have discussed with people in my own family, and feeling comfortable doing it. The most wonderful thing about recently retiring is having the time to do different things, take chances, doing something different, not always rushing off somewhere. Yes, I am a recovering workaholic. You know, most addictions have a physical and psychological component to them. The physical addiction of being a workaholic is Groundhog Day, the addiction to work where you wake, work, sleep, rinse, repeat. Hopefully I did a few other things in between all that, but the heart rate is up and constantly going. The overall rhythm of the day was dictated by that wake, work, home, sleep, rinse, repeat cycle. And there's that song again, birth, school, work, death, with the immortal lines, quote, I've been high and I've been low and I don't know where to go, end quote. Just like the rat in the cage that keeps pressing the button for food or cocaine pellets. Anyways, or whatever the experimenters are providing as rewards. You press the button, the reward follows, maybe. At work, you press the buttons, you get rewarded with a paycheck. Employee of the month parking. When I worked at McDonald's, it was the paper hat and polyester pants. But anyways, nothing to slow down. When I was taking my mindfulness class, the overwhelming feeling was, I wish I had done this earlier in my life. Could have really used it. One of my patients was an elementary school teacher at one of the city schools nearby. And I mentioned that to her. And she said, you'll be happy to know we're doing that already. We're starting in kindergarten with mindfulness and conflict resolution training. She said, you know what we call it? And I go, She goes, Jedi mind training. Anyways, our hunter-gatherer ancestors were never on for 24 hours a day. They weren't running from tigers 24 hours a day, or maybe mastodons or giant sloths. Well, I guess you don't have to run from a giant sloth. Anyways, they had downtime in between hunting, for gathering, for walking, resting, picking the berries down by the river. But our genetics are still left over from those Stone Age times, and those genetic sequences haven't caught up to our modern day age and lifestyle. And so when that phone alarm shocks you out of a sleep, you pour your coffee into a non-spill stainless steel mug, drive in heavy traffic to work, cursing at people going slow in the left-hand lane, with stress levels that are just beginning to rise and maintain throughout the entire day. And then battling traffic on the way home, and then walking into home. By yourself's one thing, but walking into a home filled with other people can be as stressful, if not more stressful, than at work. So we're always on. There's no downtime unless you make some. There's no downtime from running away from the giant sloths. The hormonal levels are constantly elevated. What does that do eventually to our overall health? It's interesting being born in the last few years of the baby boomers and to see all the accessories we have to speed up everything. You know, when washing machines first came out, they said, it's going to make your life so much easier. You'll have so much more time to do things. All these accessories for accelerating, but nothing for decelerating. I don't know, we can play music, you can have fur therapy, practice mindfulness, paying attention to things you otherwise wouldn't have. I would find myself standing in front of the microwave yelling, come on! Or at work, as I'm waiting for an electronic medical record to load, and it would take longer than 10 seconds. I would start yelling in my microwave voice, come on! When would that downtime occur? It wouldn't happen on the weekends. No, there were always chores to do, children's activities, weekend warrior projects. Would it slow down in the evenings? No. Meals, cleaning dishes. Yeah, I was that guy who loaded the dishwasher. I still am. Has to be done in a specific way and have to rearrange the haphazardly placed dishes that others have placed. Yes, I'm that guy. House chores, activities. What would the slow down time? When would it happen? Would it be a sip or a cocktail? Would it involve fur therapy like cats, dogs, guinea pigs, ferrets, tribbles? For those of you born, within the last 20 years, you probably have to look up tribbles. But just remember, I'm a recovering Trekkie. What slows things down for you? For me, it's been all the above mentioned fur therapy, learning to breathe and actually focusing on doing that. Playing music, looking into my dog's eyes. That wise old philosopher who has the wisdom of the ages, but he just doesn't have vocal cords or opposable thumbs. He can't tell you that he's a wise old philosopher. The yogis would always talk about catching the wave. I used to live in California, and some of my coworkers would be up at 5:30 a.m., and while we're going to the hospital, at that time they'd be grabbing surfboards and wetsuits and heading out to the surf. The sun is just beginning to rise, temperatures rising, ocean water temperatures changing, waves, tidal forces. They would get in an hour of surfing with some excellent waves before everybody else was having their first cup of coffee in the stainless steel mug. Then they would drive to work, start the day. They had caught the wave and they were still riding it throughout the entire day. I started waking up earlier, first out of necessity when I was in the Navy at 0 dark 30. But having children really gets you used to waking up early. It's the only time you can get anything done. Those of you who have children know what I mean. The yogis talk about waking up early and catching the wave. That is the blue light. It's a very quiet part of the day before the sun is starting to rise and the blackness of night changes to gray. And then a very grayish blue light. Very important to stimulate the pineal gland and resets that gland for another day. The pineal gland is about the size of an almond. Well, that's a big almond. Chocolate-covered almond. Chocolate-covered almonds. Peanut butter-filled pretzels. Okay, I'm not saying, I'm just saying. Anyways, the pineal gland sits up inside here, and it has a direct connection through the optic nerves, and it makes melatonin. Yeah, it just doesn't come in jars. The blue light in the morning resets it each day and gives you a reduction in melatonin, and that, of course, is how you wake and sets the tone for the rest of the day. You get that blue light, you catch the wave, and you can ride it and surf on down through the rest of the stressful parts of the day. Melatonin production increases as the sun goes down, and we get sleepy. It's all part of being a part of the rhythm of the sun. Humans have developed 3 things that keep us away from the rhythm of the sun. Number 1 was discovering fire, making candles and lamps, so now you could stay up all night long, working long after the sun had gone down. Number 2 was the discovery of caffeinated beverages, which freed us up even further from the rhythm of the sun. Flash forward centuries later, and there are phones and tablets emitting their own different type of blue light that still stimulates the pineal gland and interferes with production of melatonin, interferes with sleep. It's all about those darn circadian cycles of sleep and wakefulness. It's the third eye. That's what they referred to it as. The ancients were referring to our third eye, the pineal gland, because just like eyes transmit light waves, the pineal gland is receptive to those too. It's our third eye. It affects your food intake, your fat accumulation, your sleep cycles, your energy throughout the day. Reminds me of when I was in professional school in Washington, D.C. Everybody was getting excited for a visiting lecturer. He was an 80-year-old surgeon, still practicing surgery. Oh my. He walked into the lecture hall, or limped into the lecture hall with a cane like Yoda, walking in to encounter Count Dooku. He walks up to the podium, and he had a hard time walking up there. And I never understood that about Yoda. He needs a cane to get up to the lecture hall, to the chamber hall, encounters Count Dooku, takes off his robe like Superman, and starts flying around like he's in Cirque du Soleil. But I digress. Chocolate-covered almonds. Oop, I digress. So what are we talking about? Oh yeah, the surgeon walks up to the podium. Everybody's anxiously awaiting to hear all his pearls of wisdom. And he states, I have some words of advice for you all. Number 1, make sure you're in the right hospital. Number 2, make sure you have the right patient. And number 3, make sure you have the right body part. Thank you. And he turned and picked up his cane and walked away from the podium, and everybody was speechless, thinking, oh my God, I drove 2 hours for this? And then he walked back to the podium and said, wait a minute, there are a few more things I'd like to discuss. He said, I believe all or most all of human maladies and diseases, except for injuries and trauma, can be attributed to the following 5 things that you should question your patients about. Number 1, sleep. Number 2, hydration. Number 3, nutrition. Number 4, movement. Number 5, what do they do to relieve stress in their lives? And then he walked off the stage after his 5-minute lecture that people had driven hours to hear. Number 1 on his list of the top 5 causes of disease was sleep or lack thereof. When I think about that, I think about how much medical and dental education and working in hospitals taught me that sleep would get in the way, that the amount of caffeine you ingested could get you through, could solve all of your worries, most of them. When you're in residency and you're up for 24 or 27 hours, and you have to go to the operating room soon after that, how are you functioning? For the longest time, instructors perpetuated that dogma, saying things like, you'll have all the time in the world to sleep after you're done training. Or they would say, disease doesn't sleep. Or they would say, never go to sleep on an infection, which is actually true. Get it treated. That was all wonderful advice, but it quickly reinforced how unnecessary sleep was. So if it was unnecessary for the doctors, why would you even question patients about it? It was a distraction. You learned how to function with only 2 or 3 hours at a time, setting you up for a lifetime of habits. But it doesn't have to be in surgery or residency or medical training to develop those habits. It's all walks of life, especially when you start having children. I've always wondered if that postpartum depression that we read and hear so much about is really related to sleep deprivation. When you look at the studies they do with people who are intentionally sleep deprived, when you're changing that diaper every hour and a half, sleep deprivation can lead to anger, depression, even hallucinations, like people hang gliding into an Alabama concert. But anyways, let's have I'll have a little Reposada sipper after all that to celebrate not participating in dry January. The last choice of the evening. I'm going to get to bed, or maybe not. Maybe I'll watch the new Ralph Finn movie on HBO, The Menu. I could watch it at any other time, but why put off till tomorrow what can cause me to lose sleep today? Old habits, old rhythms. The oldest rhythms of all are the rhythm of the night, turning into day, and how our bodies have evolved over hundreds of thousands of years to live within those cycles of the sun. Anyways, for those of you that aren't sleeping by now, thanks for listening. Click the like if you like, share if you would like to. Go pet a dog. Because that's all there is. There isn't any more. Skål. I'm getting sleepy.